Okay, so today we're going to start chapter 4. We're going to cover exponents today. So our objective here is to write and simplify expressions involving exponents. So right here at the beginning it says first power of 5. So generally when it's to the first power, you're not going to see a little 1 there. Just know that an exponent means how many times you're going to repeat multiplying that base. So down here, see where it says it's describing the different parts of an exponent. So the little number at the top, or the letter M there, is the exponent, and the B in this is the base. So the exponent is going to tell you how many times to multiply that letter B. So up here, they're demonstrating it with the number 5. So 5 to the first power means that you are going to multiply or just rewrite the number 5. When it's the second power of 5, or 5 to the second power, okay, and then the next one, the second power of 5, or this right here, it's read as 5 to the second power. Now, whenever you see to the second power, you might also see the word squared. Okay, so it could be read as 5 squared or the square 5. When you see a power of 3, this could be read as 5 to the third power, 5 cubed, or the cube of 5. So remember the words squared and cubed. You'll see those quite often, many times in word problems. And then the last one here, the last example, the fourth power of 5, or 5 to the fourth power. And that would just mean that you're going to multiply 5 times itself 4 times. So in this expression, the number 4, so right here, this number 4 again is called the exponent. And the number 5 is called the base. So when it's written 5 to the fourth power, that's exponential form. Okay, so let's go ahead and try some examples. Now, if they give you a repeated multiplication like this one, and they want you to write it in exponential form, all you're going to do is count how many times you see the number. So I could count that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 6s here. So I would write this as the base is 6 and the exponent is 4, so 6 to the fourth power. Then for the next one, even when it's a letter, we can still write variables with exponents. So for the next one, I'm going to count how many letter A's I have. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letter A's. So I would write this as A to the 6th power. Now for the next one, notice we've got more than one letter here. And we also have some numbers, some coefficients that are going to go out front. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the -2 times 3. And then I'm going to go back, count how many letter P's I have. I have 1, 2, 3. So for the letter P, I'm going to put P to the third power. And then for the letter Q, I have 2 of them. Now, when I'm writing more than one letter in my term, I like to list them alphabetically. Now, for me, when it comes time to combining like terms, it makes it easier to find all of them. It's not wrong if you would have put -c, q squared, p to the third. The order of the letters doesn't matter. But always get in the habit of putting the number out front. So that is called your coefficient. We're going to see that in the next lesson. Now, the next example is find the area of a rectangle. So here, if you know that area, the formula is length times width. I'm going to take my 3x, multiply it times the width. So 3x times x. Notice up here where I did the repeated multiplication of the letter A, I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to write it in exponential form. So I'm going to take my x's and count how many I have. I have 2 of them, and then just the letter 3. So 3x squared. The next examples are, we're just going to evaluate. So let's first be careful and look at this warning up here at the top. Up at the top it says, caution, be careful when an expression contains parentheses and exponents. Notice here, when the 2y is in the parentheses, and then there's an exponent of 3 outside, this means that the whole thing that's in the parentheses is raised to the 3rd power. So we're going to do 2y times 2y times 2y. However, this second one, where there is no parentheses, the only thing that exponent of 3 is on is the letter y. So be careful on those. This is a little tricky. So let's try the next one. Now, whenever I evaluate a variable and it's got an exponent involved, I always replace my variable, whatever the value they're giving me, and I place it in parentheses, because this is going to change my answer if I don't put it in parentheses. So I'm going to put -5 in parentheses. It's going in place of the letter x, and then I'm going to raise it to the 3rd power. So what this means to me is this becomes -5 times -5 times -5. Once I multiply that out, I could take them 2 at a time, I get -125, because -5 times -5 gives me 25, and then when I multiply it again, I get -125. Now again, here's a little reminder of order of operations. You should always do all grouping symbols first, so parentheses. Next we'll do the simplify the powers, or the exponents. And then the next step, number 3, is to simplify any products or quotients, so multiplication and division. And you will do this from left to right. And then the last step is always to add or subtract. So to simplify the sum and differences from left to right. Now, this next example, very, very important. Notice part A and B of example 4, they look like the same thing, but notice one has parentheses and one does not. These are going to give me totally different answers. So part A is saying the opposite of 3 to the 4th power. Or you can also think about it as there's no parentheses holding that negative sign in, so it's going to come down, and then you're going to multiply 3 by itself 4 times. So this answer, when I do it, 3 times 3 is 9. I like to do them 2 at a time, and then 9 times 9 is 81. So I get -81 on this one. However, on part B, this was A. For part B, notice it's in a parentheses. So this is telling me I'm going to multiply -3 times -3 times -3 times -3. Once I do this, I get +9. And you could also do it with the next term and the next term, but I like to do it this way because then I can do 9 times 9 is 81. You can also multiply it by -3 times -3 is +9, times another -3 is -27, times another -3 is +81. Either way, notice they both started out looking like the same, but one had parentheses, one did not. One gives us an answer of -81, and the second one gives +81. On part C, I'm going to follow order of operations. So I'm going to multiply, so here is part C. I'm going to do the grouping symbols first, or the parentheses first. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 to the second power equals 36. Now on part D, it sort of looks like it's the same, but it's not. I cannot add first. I need to evaluate the exponent first. So I'm going to do 5 times 5, which is 5 squared, and then add the 1, and I get 26. So you must follow order of operations when you're simplifying these exponents. For example 5, again, we're going to evaluate. Again, when I evaluate, anytime I take out a variable and I replace it with its value, I put it in a parentheses. So for this one, I'm going to put my parentheses and then my 2. I'm going to write a parentheses because I'm replacing the letter A with 3. And when I take out the letter, I always put it back in with parentheses. So then now I'll take out the letter B, and in its place, I'm putting -2. And now I have a bigger parenthesis here, so the whole thing is in parentheses. So now the first thing I'm going to do is work within the parentheses. I'm going to multiply first. So I get 6 plus -2. And then I'm going to raise the whole thing after I add it to the second power. So now I'm going to add 6 plus -2. I get 4. And now I can square the 4, giving me 16. So you need to take your time, work within the parentheses first. The next one, the same thing. I'm going to take out the letter X, both times I see it, and put in the number 2. Then for the letter Y, I'm going to replace it with the number 5. So I get 2. So 2, and then I'm going to put in the Y, and then the whole thing, and you can either put it as parentheses or brackets, and then here, 2 is still here. I'm going to put in a 2, and then I'm going to put in the Y. So now I'm going to follow order of operations. So I'm going to work within my parentheses first, and I'm going to find out what 2 minus 5 is. And that's going to give me -3. And then I'm going to multiply the bottom, and that's going to give me 4 plus 5. So I get 9 in my denominator. I now need to figure out what -3 to the third power is. So remember that means -3 times -3 times -3, which will give me -27. Remember the fraction bar means to divide, so now I need to divide -27 by +9, and I get -3. So let's just go through a couple of these. So for number 1, if it says to state your expression in exponential form, all you need to do is count how many of each letter you see and write it with an exponent. So notice on this one, I can count that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's here. So this becomes x to the 4th power. So this is what it means when it wants you to write it in exponential form. Let's go ahead and look at the one right below it. This time I'm going to have 2 letters in my answer. I'm going to count how many letter C's I have. I have 2 of them. So this will become C to the 2nd power, and then just the letter Y. On this next one, when I multiply these 2, or count how many R's I have 2 negative R's, but remember a negative times a negative is a positive, so this will become positive R squared. For number 10, I'm going to multiply the coefficients. So 2 times -4 is -8. And then I'm going to count how many k's I have. And I have 3 of them. Again, if they ask you to figure out something, let me show you 17 and 18. On number 17, remember it's in a parentheses. So what this means to do here is -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. So we could work left to right, multiply these two, and I get +4 times another -2 is -8 times another -2 is +16. However, this one, notice it's different. Nothing holding in that negative sign. So really all it's saying is find the opposite of 2 to the 4th power. Or notice that the negative sign could come down and then you repeat 2 to the 4th. So notice this exponent when there's no parentheses is only on the 2, not on the negative sign. So when I go to do this one, this will actually give me -16. Know the difference. You will see it quite often. Peek here. So your homework is 1 through 47 all for this section.